Welcome to Divine Couples. Your host, Naomi Slater, will awaken your passion, deepen your intimacy, and invite healing into your relationships, working towards accessing higher levels of consciousness in all areas of your life. Come with us on this journey to explore and experience your fullest potential.
You are listening to Society Bites Radio, social interaction for the mind and soul. Thanks for joining us. I am your host, Naomi Slater, and you have tuned in to Divine Couples, adding intimacy, passion, and healing to your lives. MARLEE LISS helps women claim sacred sensuality so they can live in self-love and inner wholeness. As a women's embodiment coach, author, public speaker, and retreat facilitator, she has worked internationally to inspire transformative healing. MARLEE's work is deeply shaped by her background in social work, trauma-informed yoga, somatic sex education, and body image facilitation. In 2019, MARLEE founded an organization called Rehumanize, focused on uplifting cultural standards of empathy. MARLEE has shared her story of restorative justice for sexual violence worldwide, and her work has been featured in Forbes, HuffPost, BuzzFeed, Mel Robbins Show, and more. Hey, MARLEE, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
Yeah, so MARLEE, last segment we talked about your journey into how you became a sexual embodiment coach and how you essentially turned being sexually violated into a movement for women's sexual empowerment. So how has your personal healing translated into impact?
Powerful question. How has my personal healing translated? Definitely, I have just cultivated so much friggin' passion for this topic, and I just feel that because I've lived through it, I care so deeply, and I know the journey, even though it's different for everyone, I know the journey of descent and rising, and I know what it feels like to completely lose connection to my own body and my own sexuality, and then in the contrast, I know what it feels like to be completely in love with myself and to feel so safe and powerful and like this sexual goddess within my own skin. So it just makes me so passionate about activating that within other women and sort of midwifing them in their own liberation process. It's just, I feel like it's what I'm on the planet to do.
Well, for sure, without a doubt. That is definitely why you're here, girl. So maybe you can talk about healing the feminine-masculine relationship paradigm and kind of explaining also what that is, because I know that you do a lot of that work.
Yeah, so when I talk about healing the feminine and masculine, I am definitely talking about these as energies that we all have access to. So what I really focus on in my program is balancing those two energies and cultivating an epic romance within. And even though those energies are different from genders, we can't deny that we have associations. So if a woman, and I've experienced this, if a woman is really scared of men, or if she's really angry at men, she's probably going to have a hard time connecting with her own masculine in a balanced way. And to just give a few examples of what the feminine and masculine are, the feminine is like really about this path of embodiment. It's this journey of coming down and into our bodies. It's honoring our cyclical nature, our flow, our intuition. And the masculine energy is more of a journey of connecting up and out, seeing like the bigger picture, feeling that sense of unity, feeling a really strong sense of direction, and like this really clear focus and capacity to walk towards a goal and to really create the structure for that feminine flow. So when we balance these things and claim them within our lives, we find like a really gorgeous relationship within, and naturally we also heal those wounds that exist between the genders, between men and women on a more external level.
And do you also see women that are like really disconnected from their feminine energy?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think that this is so freaking common in our world today because, as we know, there's a really big imbalance, and our culture is so yang, so masculine, so do, efficiency,
goal-oriented,
capitalism, all that sort of shenanigans. Yeah. And as a result, a lot of us as women feel that we have to abandon our feminine and jump into that really goal-oriented, efficient way of being. So, and there's also a lot of people who just don't feel safe to be in their feminine because women have been oppressed and we've been violated in so many ways. There's a lot of people who think it's going to be safer to just abandon their feminine completely.
Wow. And how does that look like? So if there's a woman who's very disconnected from her feminine, what kind of attributes does she hold?
So so my belief is that if the feminine and masculine aren't balanced, then they both become distorted. So when we speak about a woman who's abandoned her feminine, we're not saying that, oh, now she's embodying the divine masculine. We're saying that now she's actually embodying the imbalanced masculine, which to me looks like just completely conforming to patriarchy, trying to keep up with the boys, shoving emotions down, probably really hardening herself and toughening up, manning up, all these sort of things, and trying to, definitely she's ignoring her cycles. If she's bleeding, then she's working right through that experience of bleeding. She's pushing herself.
Yeah, I think most women actually still do that.
Very common, for sure. This is also something we talk about in my program, is reclaiming the magic of our cycles, no matter where you're at in your life journey.
Agreed. Yeah, that's something that I did. It's kind of sad for me to admit that it's something that I've only done within the past couple years, and I'm 42. So, for me, you don't really hear this. You don't get exposed to this very often. I mean, it's very common you just have to get through it. You pop a couple pills, and you just kind of have to push through. Life goes on. But the more that I've realized that I really, really need to slow down, especially when I'm on my heaviest day, how that day of rest really carries me through the rest of the month. And actually, I'm super, super sensitive on that day, not in a quote unquote bitchy way, but that I receive a lot of downloads, and I'm able to really channel things that I want to do during the rest of the month, if I'm able really just to dive deep on that one day where I'm bleeding heavily. So yeah, I think it's a super important thing to teach women to do.
So powerful.
Yeah. So how do you help people then heal that imbalance between the feminine and masculine relationship within themselves?
We do some gorgeous practices in this coaching container, where we really work with forgiveness, cultivating compassion, emotional alchemy, like we were talking about in the last segment, in order to create space for a beautiful relationship. So first and foremost, we clear out the shit. We clear out whatever's blocking us from embracing that. So if someone's suppressing the feminine, we're okay, well, what's going on there? Do you not feel safe to be in your feminine? And we work with the grief that might live around that, the fear that might live around that. And then by doing that, we create space for them to really, in a held way, come into their feminine and realize the juiciness and the power that lives there. And same thing with the masculine. If someone's blocking the masculine, we say, what's going on there? Is there remnants of rage? Is there fear? Is there resentment? Is there confusion? We work with that grief. And in doing that, we clear the way for people to anchor in their own power and their sovereignty and their inner authority, and they realize that this is such a source of also empowerment for them.
Wow, that's unbelievable. And I'm curious, once you lead people through this kind of a process where they're able to really dive deep and begin to heal their divine feminine and masculine relationship, what are some of the results that you see when people kind of come out of this process?
So many amazing things. Like, I'm just in friggin' heart eye mode with my clients all the time. Like, they just amaze me. I've seen people do everything. I've seen people like leave toxic jobs, those jobs where they feel like they're like selling their soul every day, and they leave their job and they like finally create their dream business that they've been fantasizing about since they were a little girl. I've seen people leave abusive relationships and just cultivate a gorgeous romance with themselves, with nature, with spirit, and then eventually with others. I've seen people embrace their sexual orientation and come out as bisexual or queer and say like, wow, I was suppressing this my whole life, and finally they start to create the relationships that are authentic to them. And even just on a more energetic level, like, I've seen the way that they walk and breathe change. I've seen them stop sucking in their stomachs. I've seen them put on like cheetah different outfits and strut through the streets. I've seen them like share about self-pleasure and sex toys and louder orgasms and just so much. And one of my favorite ways to witness this is through women's dancing, like witnessing women just take their hair down and dance in a way that's so wild and free. Like, these are some of the shifts that I really cherish the most.
Wow, that sounds so gratifying for you also.
Yeah.
as the one kind of guiding them through this process. Like, wow, what an amazing impact you're having on other people's lives, and I'm sure that really fills your heart. That's beautiful.
Thank you. It does, 1,000%.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what kind of inner work can a sexual violator do to help themselves heal from this want to violate others?
Sexual violator. Whew, that's a big one. I think that they need to be deeply aware of how much they need help, because I think we've internalized the punitive system so much that when we do something bad, we're like, oh, I need to like lock myself in my room and beat myself up and self-sabotage and punishment. Exactly. And that helps no one. It helps no one. And it probably just keeps their misery going, which was fueling the violence in the first place. So I think the first thing that needs to happen is like letting go of those blocks to emotional flow. Like, have feelings around the fact that you hurt someone, and find space where you'll be supported and resourced in feeling those feelings. Like, grieve about it, and that will reignite some level of empathy that was shut down. And that's really the key, like embodied empathy. So leaning into those supports, not going into shame-based silence mode where you're just like swallowing it down and pretending like it never happened. And that's really where the healing lies, is in knowing that you need to heal, and that the world needs you to heal.
They really need to seek help.
Exactly. A really beautiful quote that an Indigenous elder that I work with has said is, nothing you ever do can take the love of the mother away from you. The mother being like Mother Earth. And when people hurt someone else, that's such a important moment where they're either gonna like realize they need to transform because they cross their own boundaries so much, or they go into a spiral where they're just like, well, now I'm a piece of shit. And when people realize that they still have a right to love, they still have a right to being loved, that's when